My name is David, as you can see on my little name tag there, and I will be your teacher and guide through the audio landscape. I am a podcaster and I love helping people with their audio needs. And today we're going to be going over just some basics that you need to record yourself at the library itself. This advice is specific to the Route 9 library. However, most of it can be adapted for other audio setups. The setup that we're working with here is pretty standard across the board. I know I have a similar setup at home. Now, that's kind of what's exciting to me is that like I only got a chance to use this equipment like once before, and I already kind of know what's going on. So I'm sure you guys won't have any trouble with it at all. The only thing I do have that I brought from home is just a USB drive that I'm using to save all of my work on. So if you do want to record at the library, I recommend bringing a USB drive with you. We also have an SD card reader here if you use an SD card as well. And because that way you can keep all your files with you and it's not just locked onto this computer, which can be kind of scary. All right. So let's kind of just jump into it. So we're just going to open up Adobe Audition. Oh, and just stop me if you have any questions. I'll just kind of keep talking and talking until somebody tells me not to. So just pause me, just start talking if you want me to answer a question.
And I think you guys know the rules generally, but I'm supposed to say as the library person that we got to be, respecting each other and not just yelling obscenities all the time. I don't know, but just so you know, we got to be good. And I'm going to record Dave's screen too, so you could review this later and I'll send it to you. So if you ask a question and you want to like put your video on, just be aware I might be recording you. Okay.
Please don't scream your social security number.
Don't do that. Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
Okay, so first thing we have is this is just our regular screen. We just opened it up. We'll get into kind of what everything is here in a second, but first we want to open up a new session so that it populates everything and we can get a clear look. There's two ways that you can open up a new file. One is in the top left-hand corner here where it says multi-track. You can just click that and it'll open up a new multi-track session, or you can do File, New, Multi-track Session. Either way is fine. I'm not your parent. You set your own rules. Now, I highly recommend that as you can see here, we have this little pop-up window giving us some options. For the session name, I always recommend to make your own name, even if it's just something as simple as test or, attempt number 1, just something. It just helps with where the files save to. And same thing with folder location. Don't ever set it to be like just the default. Always put it somewhere. One time I lost about 16 hours worth of work just because I forgot those two things. So please learn from my mistakes. So the session name, this is going to be our first session, so we should probably name it something pretty modest. How about greatest recording of all time? And then the folder location, I'm just going to put it in my little flash drive that I brought with me. We'll select folder. Okay, I'm going to make a new folder here just called test. And we'll put it in there. Little test folder. Nope, did I put that in there? Yep, okay. Moving down a little farther, we have a template option. I've never really used a template, and I don't really see much of a need for it. But, if you want to explore that option, you can. But for now, we're just going to do none. Gives us a nice blank slate. Sample rate. What that is that adjusts the quality of your audio. Now, there are some limitations with this. Yours might be set to a different sample rate when you first open the program. Usually you stay between 48,000 and 44,100 here. This affects audio quality a little bit, but it also affects the size of your files. So if you're working with smaller files or like a smaller recording sessions, you can probably have a higher quality. But like me, I sometimes I can do 2 hours of raw audio. So I'm okay with just having it a little bit lower. It doesn't affect it too much, but just something to keep in mind if you are, just if you are working with limited space. The bit depth here, I'm gonna set to 4410 or 44100 here. For bit depth, we're gonna leave that at 32 float. Not really a need to change that unless you have a system that specifically requires something different. For your master, we have 3 options here: mono, stereo, and 5.1. That just refers to like the surround sound and recording in stereo. I would just record in mono because it works for most of what you need. But if you do need to go in stereo, like if you are going to be panning from left to right with your speakers or with your headphones, or if you want that effect, if you want one person to be talking in the left ear and the other person to be talking in the right ear, and you want to give your listener, schizophrenic episodes, then you can do that. For what we're just going to be doing mono, and that also affects your file size as well. It's just going to be one channel, equally distributed between both left and right ear, and left and right sides. So that's where you set that. We're going to hit OK. And that's going to open up a whole range of options here. So let's take a look. Lots to look at. Let's start with the top left here, where it says Files and Favorites. This is the place, the files. That's where all of your audio files are going to be housed. So if you import things into Audition, it's all going to be housed here. Pretty much all that does. A little bit lower is our screen with just some different options. This is where some of our effects are. You click left to media browser if you want to take a look at some more, kind of another, if you want to look at things without importing them. There's also a markers option as you're recording, or if you're listening back. What you can do is like it allows you to set markers like, oh, I want to remember this spot, want to remember this spot. But we're not really going to be dealing with in here too much, but just so you know what that's for. And then it's a little hidden here, a little history section. So this just gives us a history of the edits that we've made so far. This big main screen, now this is where we're going to be working the most. This is where we are going to be, this is where our recordings are going to go. These are our different tracks. So if we have, a speaking volume here, or if we have an instrument or any like audio tracks, effects can go down here. This is how everything is separated. Excuse me. Then down here is just some levels. This is where it kind of gives us a more in-depth is when we're listening back to things, this will adjust to let us know how loud or quiet things are. So let's see. I think that kind of gets us kind of started. Any questions so far? Are we all kind of following along? I say all, both. Guess following along.
Yeah, I think it's good to know what each piece is because it looks intimidating.
Yes, it can look very intimidating. I think a signature characteristic of all Adobe programs is that when you open it up, you have to be scared when you first don't open it up.
I agree. That's true.
Like I know the first time I opened up Adobe Photoshop for the first time, and I just panicked and I said, forget it, I'm going back to MS Paint for 3 years. And I didn't open it up. But it's not that scary when you kind of know what's going on. But we are going to be working in the multi-track, kind of this area the most today.
Cool.
So now that we have it open, we have to know, how do we start a recording? Now, the way we do that is we have to assign the microphone into the program. First thing I'm going to do is, before we work in here, I want to make sure that my interface, which is, it's kind of adjusting here, which is this thing that my microphone and my headphones are plugged into. I want to make sure that that this program knows that I want to use this as my sound device, rather than the normal sound drivers that are on the program, that are on the computer itself. This is just a little part of troubleshooting that can save a lot of time later on. Now, how we find that out first is we're going to go into our preferences. We're going to hit Edit in the top left-hand side, go all the way down to the bottom to Preferences. It's going to give us some extra options here. We're going to go to Audio Hardware. We can really click any of these and it brings up the same window, but this is where we're going to land, is audio hardware. And here we have even additional options. I'm hoping that that if you were to use this computer, this is already all set up for you, but it's a public computer, so it may not. But so this is a good place to start if you're having any problems getting things to work. The main things I want you to look at are these two options here, the default input and the default output. We want to make sure that it is attached to the Scarlett 2i2 USB. That's referring to the mixer, the audio interface that I just showed you, and I'll show you a little bit more detail in a moment. We want to make sure that is selected for both. Look, see, that it wasn't even selected for this. So we're going to make sure we select it for its output. And it'll give us a little warning. We just click through that. It's just letting us know that we're changing things. So our input and our output should be the same. Don't really mess with the master clock or the latency. That is, I would be amazed if that gets changed. But that should be also into the speakers, and the latency should be 200. And also you'll see, remember we were talking about sample rate earlier? Boom, 44, 100. There it is again. Look, everything's looking up for us. And we're just going to hit OK. It may seem like we've done nothing, but we have just prevented hours worth of research.